Everyone wants peace, but almost no one realizes what's actually stealing it. It's not your job, your bank account, or even the people who push your buttons. The real thief? Your own mind, dragging you into battles that don't exist. You think you need to fix the past or control the future to be happy, but that's a lie. The only thing keeping you stuck is resistance, fighting against what is. And here's the paradox. The more you resist, the more you suffer. What if true freedom had nothing to do with changing your circumstances, but everything to do with accepting them? Not in a passive way, but in a way that gives you actual power. Imagine no longer being emotionally hijacked by problems, no longer reacting out of fear. Imagine clarity, presence, and the ability to move through life without being controlled by stress. This isn't just a concept, it's a skill. And once you master it, everything changes. You've been taught to fight, to push, to resist. But what if the key to everything you want is the exact opposite? Let's unravel the illusion together. 1. The illusion of time and the trap of resistance. Most people live trapped in a mental prison, constantly reliving the past or obsessing over the future. The mind does this because it hates the unknown, so it clings to old regrets or future anxieties like a bad habit. But here's the problem. Neither the past nor the future exist in reality. They're just mental projections. And yet resistance to what is keeps people stuck in endless suffering, thinking they need to control everything before they can finally relax. What if real freedom was never about control, but about presence? Think about someone stuck in traffic, honking, cursing, and stressing over being late. No matter how much they resist reality, traffic isn't moving any faster. Their suffering isn't coming from the situation, it's coming from their resistance to it. The moment they drop the mental fight and accept the present moment as it is, something shifts. Suddenly, they notice the music playing, the sunlight reflecting off the buildings, and a sense of ease settles in. Nothing changed externally, but internally, they stepped out of resistance and into awareness. The mind tricks people into believing that if they don't resist, they're being passive. It whispers, if you accept this, you're giving up. But that's a lie. Acceptance isn't about inaction, it's about clarity. A person who resists reality is blinded by frustration, unable to act wisely. But someone who embraces presence sees reality as it is and responds intelligently. When resistance drops, clarity rises, and from that place, true action is born. Life stops feeling like a fight and starts feeling like a dance. Once a person experiences this shift, they realize they were never at war with life, only with their own mind. The key is to notice resistance in the moment and consciously choose to drop it. This isn't a one-time realization, but a practice. The deeper this practice goes, the more peace unfolds. And that's when something even more profound becomes clear. Why the ego fears acceptance. 2. Why the ego fears acceptance. The ego thrives on conflict. It needs problems to exist. Without something to resist, to fight against, it starts losing its grip. That's why it convinces people that acceptance is dangerous, that if they stop struggling, they'll become weak, passive, or lose control. But here's the truth. Resistance drains energy, while acceptance unlocks real power. The moment someone stops fighting reality and embraces what is, a massive amount of energy is freed up. Instead of being stuck in frustration, they gain the clarity to act from a place of awareness. Imagine a man facing financial trouble. His ego panics, telling him to stress, complain, or blame others. But none of that changes his situation. It only keeps him trapped in fear. Now, if he accepts the reality of his finances without resistance, something shifts. He stops wasting energy on denial or frustration and starts seeing opportunities. Maybe he notices an overlooked skill he can monetize, a contact he can reach out to, or a new way to manage his resources. Acceptance didn't make him passive. It made him powerful. The ego hates this because its survival depends on identification with struggle. If someone realizes they don't need resistance to function, the ego starts losing its hold. That's why it whispers things like, "If you accept this, you're settling. If you surrender, you'll lose everything." But look closely. Has resistance ever truly helped? Or has it only caused stress, delays, and suffering? Real strength comes from meeting life as it is, not from endlessly fighting it. What the ego calls weakness is actually freedom. Once someone sees through this illusion, they start breaking free from the ego's grip. But there's still something that keeps pulling them back into old patterns, their emotional pain. And the more they resist it, the stronger it becomes. That's where the pain body comes in. 3. The pain body and how resistance feeds it. Emotional pain doesn't just disappear, it lingers, waiting for the right trigger to resurface. This is what Eckhart Tolle calls the pain body, an accumulation of past hurts, fears, and traumas that feed off resistance. Every time someone suppresses their pain, avoids it, or tries to escape through distractions, they unknowingly strengthen it. The more they resist feeling it, the more it controls them. But the moment they stop running, turn inward, and allow themselves to fully feel without judgment, the pain body begins to lose its grip. Think about someone going through heartbreak. If they resist the pain, they might numb it with work, alcohol, or endless scrolling on their phone. But no matter how much they distract themselves, the pain lingers beneath the surface, waiting to be triggered again. Now, if they sit with the pain, feel it without labeling it as bad or wrong, something interesting happens. The emotion rises, peaks, and eventually passes, just like a wave in the ocean. Instead of being stuck in suffering, they create space for real healing. The key is awareness. Most people react to pain unconsciously, either pushing it away or letting it take over. But when they observe it with presence, like watching a storm pass, they break free from its control. This doesn't mean wallowing in pain or overanalyzing it. It means allowing it to be there without resistance, without adding unnecessary mental stories. In that space of non-resistance, something shifts. The pain body loses its power because it can no longer feed on suffering. This shift is subtle yet life-changing. The more someone practices this, the more they realize that true healing doesn't come from avoiding pain, but from embracing it with full acceptance. And this brings up an important distinction, one that most people misunderstand. What's the difference between surrendering to life and simply giving up? 4. Surrender versus giving up, the subtle yet powerful shift. Most people mistake surrender for weakness, thinking it means rolling over and accepting defeat. But real surrender isn't about giving up. It's about letting go of mental resistance. When someone surrenders, they stop fighting reality and start working with life instead of against it. This shift doesn't mean they stop taking action. It means their actions become clearer, more effective, and free from the emotional chaos that resistance creates. True surrender is the difference between drowning in a storm and learning to surf the waves. Picture an entrepreneur whose business is struggling. If he gives up, he walks away in frustration, letting fear dictate his decisions. But if he surrenders, he stops resisting the facts and sees things as they are. He might recognize new opportunities, pivot his strategy, or find creative solutions he couldn't see before. The key difference: giving up comes from fear, surrender comes from awareness. One leads to helplessness, the other to freedom. The situation doesn't control him anymore. His presence does. Surrender isn't passive. It's an act of deep intelligence. It means trusting life enough to stop forcing outcomes, stop clinging to rigid expectations, and allow things to unfold naturally. The mind loves control, but control is just an illusion. The paradox is that the moment someone surrenders, they actually gain control, not over life, but over their inner state. And when the inner state is clear, external actions become powerful. No more wasted energy on unnecessary suffering, just direct, aligned movement. This is where life starts to feel different. Things that once caused stress lose their grip. Challenges become invitations to flow instead of reasons to fight. And in this state, something even deeper begins to emerge, an unshakable sense of freedom. But where does this freedom truly come from? It's found in the one place the mind constantly overlooks: the present moment. 5. How present moment awareness unlocks true freedom. Freedom isn't found in the past or the future. It exists only now. The mind, however, is obsessed with time, constantly dragging people into regrets or anxieties, making them believe that happiness is just around the corner. But have you ever noticed that the future never actually arrives? The moment you get there, the mind is already chasing the next thing. True freedom begins when someone shifts their awareness from compulsive thinking to direct experience, fully engaging with this moment, exactly as it is. Think about drinking a cup of coffee. Most people do it while scrolling their phone, lost in thought, barely noticing the taste. But if they pause, feel the warmth of the cup, taste the richness of the coffee, hear the sounds around them, something changes. That moment becomes full, alive. Nothing external shifted, but their awareness did. When someone stops living in their head and starts living through their senses, presence replaces stress, and life becomes richer, even in the simplest moments. This doesn't mean problems magically disappear. Life will still bring challenges, but those challenges are always easier to handle from a state of clarity rather than mental chaos. A person lost in thought reacts impulsively, adding unnecessary suffering. But someone rooted in the now responds intelligently. They see things as they are, not as their mind distorts them to be. That's the power of awareness. It strips away illusions and reveals what's real. From this place, decisions become effortless. The more someone practices living in presence, the more they realize how much of their suffering was self-created. The grip of the past loosens, the anxiety of the future fades, and life feels lighter. But here's the real breakthrough. When the mind quiets down, something profound is revealed, our true identity beyond thoughts. And once someone sees that, everything changes. 6. Beyond the mind, recognizing your real identity. Most people believe they are their thoughts. They spend their lives lost in mental noise, identifying with every worry, every judgment, every inner dialogue. But who is the one watching those thoughts? The moment someone realizes they are the awareness behind the mind, not the mind itself, something shifts. Instead of being dragged around by endless thinking, they start observing it. And in that observation, they glimpse their true identity, something vast, silent, unshaken by the ups and downs of life. Imagine sitting by a river, watching leaves float by. Those leaves are thoughts, constantly drifting in and out. Most people, instead of observing, jump in the river, grabbing onto every thought as if it defines them. But when someone steps back and simply watches, they see that thoughts come and go, yet something remains unchanged: the observer. That observer is the real self. It doesn't judge, it doesn't cling, it simply is. This realization is the essence of spiritual awakening. This doesn't mean thoughts stop completely. That's not the goal. The goal is to stop being owned by them. When someone identifies with their thoughts, they're controlled by every fear, every impulse. But when they see thoughts as passing clouds in the sky, their relationship with life changes. Stress loses its grip. Overthinking fades. They stop reacting blindly and start responding with clarity. This is why the greatest wisdom traditions have always pointed to silence, not as emptiness, but as the doorway to true understanding. Recognizing one's real identity isn't just an intellectual concept, it's a practice. And the more someone lives from this awareness, the more peaceful, clear, and powerful they become. But this realization isn't meant to stay as just an insight. It needs to be integrated into daily life through small but powerful practices that turn presence into a way of being. 7. Living in the now as a daily practice. Spiritual awakening isn't about one big realization. It's about practice. Awareness, acceptance, and presence aren't things someone understands once and then moves on. They're habits that need to be built, just like strengthening a muscle. The mind will always try to pull people back into old patterns of resistance and overthinking. That's why daily practices are essential. Simple habits like mindful breathing, pausing before reacting, or consciously feeling the body keep someone anchored in the now instead of lost in mental noise. A great way to practice is through micro moments of presence. For example, while drinking water, someone can fully experience the coolness, the taste, the sensation in their throat. Or while walking, they can feel their feet touching the ground, the rhythm of their steps. These small moments train the mind to stay here instead of drifting into unnecessary thinking. Over time, presence stops being something people do and becomes something they are. It turns into a natural state. Resistance will still show up. Old habits don't disappear overnight. But the difference is, now there's awareness. When frustration, anxiety, or impatience arise, instead of reacting automatically, a person can pause and observe. Oh, there's resistance. Let me breathe and feel this moment instead of fighting it. That single pause interrupts the usual cycle of suffering. It's a reminder that they are not their thoughts, not their reactions. They are the awareness watching it all unfold. With enough practice, presence becomes the foundation of life. Instead of being tossed around by the mind's constant chatter, there's a deep inner stillness. Challenges come and go, but they no longer shake the core of one's being. This is the real power of now. It's not just about feeling peaceful, but about living with a level of freedom and clarity that most people never experience. And once someone realizes that, the question is no longer why practice presence, but how to deepen it even further. If you want to elevate your vibrations and manifest with more ease, I have prepared something special for you. Click the link in the first pinned comment and join us in the journey of awakening your inner mage.